So Human Rights Watch Watcher, which I love that name, right? Because we're the watchdog, but who watches the watchdog? The watchdog does, and we're the watchdog. So I'm really shaken up right now. I was just visited by 2 plainclothes police officers from California Highway Patrol at my home. They said they came here on behalf of the Capitol Police and accused me of threatening AOC on Twitter yesterday. This is provably false. So what was the tweet that got him in trouble? This is the tweet that got him in trouble. You want to see what that tweet was? He tweeted out this video of AOC giving a word salad about Israel-Palestine. You want to hear it? Here it is.
What actions do you think can be taken to support movements towards peace, both between Israelis and Palestinians, as well as within the entire region, such as the Abraham Accords?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so earlier just now, you and I were talking about the what and the how.
Wow.
Yes.
And I think that when we talk about establishing peace, centering people's humanities, protecting people's rights, it's...
Because anyone tell me, by the way, before we get started, what does centering people's humanity? What in the F does that... That means nothing. I don't know what that means. If that means something, I'm a college graduate. I turned 43 12 years ago, and I've been around the block. I read a lot. I've never heard what that means. So anyway, it's just centering people's humanity. Here we go.
It's not just about the what? And the end goal, which often gets a lot of focus.
But it's about the how.
But I actually think it's much more about the how. And
okay, it sounds like she's been listening to Anand Handes guy, whoever the fuck, Mr. Gray Hair, Anand. Because this is just claptrap bullshit that makes you think like, oh, she's saying something revolutionary. And she's not saying. It turns out she's not saying anything, and so she's not saying anything. And what he tweeted out was, "Boy, this is underwhelming," and that's when they send the cops to her house. Ali says, I'm incredibly impressed with AOC's Obama-like ability to fill large amounts of time with words while saying absolutely nothing. I challenge anyone to tell me what she just said. I'm exactly with you 100%. And so Human Rights Watch Watcher says, this is completely outrageous. I was visited by 2 police officers, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I don't know what I said. I'd really appreciate it if AOC could look into this. I recognize she's probably receives a lot of threats, but I shouldn't be harassed by police for critiquing her politics. I frankly feel very unsafe in my home right now. I wonder if AOC did reach out to that young man, because that seems like something that she would want to protect, the free speech rights of people to criticize politicians. I bet that really bothers her. I bet that bothers her. Erica says, I was here to witness this bullying and intimidation toward Queer a la Mode, which is that Human Rights Watch Watcher Watch. It's absurd and terrifying that my colleague had to endure this type of harassment purely for some criticism of AOC. We live in a police state. Shouldn't the California Highway Police be tagged in this to verify? So they did, and they said contact the Capitol Police, but they did confirm that the Capitol Police did contact the California Highway Patrol, which is like the state police in California, and the state police in California did show up at that guy's fucking house. And so then Max Blumenthal did a story about it at the Gray Zone. And I'm not going to get into it because I have the guy here. He's going to tell us the story. But what I want you to realize is that this is before I bring on the guy this happened to, this is an email she sent out in February. AOC. Now, she has 11 million Twitter followers. She could send out an email telling people, make sure you call every legislator that's against Medicare for all and tell them you want it. Or make sure you show up at a protest this Saturday to make sure we get $15 minimum wage. Or make sure you go call your legislator to tell them to get Joe Biden to relieve student debt. Or make sure, get public option. She doesn't use her for anything. But what is this? She did ask her Twitter followers to do something. What is it? She says, as we speak, right-wing operatives with millions of followers on social media are spreading flat-out lies and misleading information about Alexandria. But with your help, we can force Twitter and Facebook to take action and enforce their own rules. Hundreds of thousands of potentially millions of people will have already shared the misleading tweets or fake news articles. The sad thing is that a lot of damage has already been done. People have been misled and radicalized. People would call you a radical, AOC. People would say the people who follow you have been radicalized. Isn't that ironic? Now she's the establishment because her party's in power and someone else is the radical. Isn't that interesting? People have been misled and radicalized. This is exactly what led to thousands of enraged rioters storming the Capitol building on January 6th. But we can do something about it. And what does she want you to do about it? What does she want her 11 million followers to do? She wants people to scan their social media to find posts with misleading information, especially those using trending hashtags. Identify any posts that are threatening or harassing and use the built-in report features to flag them for moderators. Facebook and Twitter both have so she's weaponizing her 11 million followers to become snitches on social media.
Socializing that it's acceptable.
Socializing that this kind of snitching bullshit, that's not what lefties don't take your name down and give it to the cops. That's not what fucking lefties are supposed to do. So if you can, help us scan social media tonight and report those spreading disinformation. Thank you for all you do. That's what she's using her power for, to silence people who are anti-war or who want progressive policies. The Gray Zone reported this. Weeks earlier, podcaster Jimmy Dore had initiated a Force the Vote campaign to pressure AOC and fellow members of the Progressive Congressional Squad to withhold their votes for Representative Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House until Nancy Pelosi agreed to bring a bill of Medicare for All to the floor for a vote. In response to incendiary criticism from Dore for her refusal to buck centrist party leadership, AOC declared, "That's not tone, that's violence." So now I'm going to bring in the young man. We are pleased to have with us our next guest. He's an anti-war activist. He's a producer of The Soapbox and Left Bitches, which I've been on. I've been on that. I've been on being a lefty bitch. I'm a lefty bitch myself. I've been on that.
Lefty bitch, Jimmy.
Awesome. I'm so glad I did that show. I'm so smart. He's very dangerous. He tweeted a video of a public forum that AOC spoke at and menacingly called her performance underwhelming. Please welcome to the show, Ryan Wentz. Hi, Ryan. How are you?
Hi, Jimmy. Thanks so much for having me on.
Ryan, your face is in shadow. Is there any way we can get a...
Forward, maybe just lean
Can you maybe if you lean in or... Yeah.
That's better already.
Lean in
That's
more.
Great.
There you go, bud.
Ryan's sexy.
That's better. That's better. Now, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's actually a very harrowing story that you tell. I know we're joking about it, but I can't imagine if I criticized a politician and then I had cops show up at my house. That is so 1940 Germany. I can't even tell you. So, Ryan, tell us the sequence that led up to cops coming to your house.
Right. So on Wednesday, I just found that live stream of AOC speaking with Michael Miller. I forget exactly what his title is, but I was just really shocked by how disappointing her statement was. Not that I really expect anything better, but I just thought that, the issue of Palestine should be clear for anyone who claims to be on the left. Israel's an apartheid state committing daily human rights atrocities against the indigenous Palestinian people. And I just thought, this is the woman who brands herself as the most progressive member of Congress. How is this acceptable? So I posted this video on a Twitter and it kind of blew up. And then a little bit over 24 hours later, I had two plainclothes police officers bobbing their heads up and down right outside my front gate in LA. And they were saying my name. I thought it was my Postmates driver, but there were two of them. So they showed me their badges and asked to talk for a little bit. And it was just really invasive, the questions that they were asking me. They were saying, what are your politics? How is your mental health? Does your family live around here? Just a bunch of egregious, like, violating questions that I answered. I don't have a lawyer with me. I'm not going to give you those answers. They asked if I intended to harm AOC, and I said no to that. But they initially said that the previous day, had threatened to kill a sitting member of Congress. And then, like, a couple minutes later, they specified that it was AOC. And that's when I remembered, like, oh, I just tweeted this really harmless video of her, but it went viral. And I was just shocked that they leapt to, oh, you're threatening to kill a sitting member of Congress, after I really put out a mildly worded criticism of her. All that I said was that her response was underwhelming, and I could have been a little more forceful with my language, because I think that it's insulting, frankly, the way that she responded to that question. And I think that people on the left should know that this is her stance on Palestine. She doesn't have a stance. She is willing to fold over to the pro-Israel lobby. So, yeah, I was just really alarmed by this incident and by the plainclothes officers showing up at my place, and it just felt like such an egregious overreach.
So now there's no, how in the hell, your address is not on your Twitter profile. So how did the cops get your address?
That's a great question. I don't know if Twitter played a role in that. I wouldn't be surprised. But who knows? Like, how do they have access to this shit? It's pretty disturbing that they just showed up 24 hours later. You know, it wasn't a week later, and it obviously wasn't me who threatened to kill her. Apparently, some news broke today from a couple of reporters insinuating that there was a tweet in my replies that was a threat, and that's why they came to me. So if I'm responsible for the replies to my tweet now, that's a really dangerous, slippery slope.
So there's, by the way, Ryan, there seems to be some confusion on the left with Biden in office. I'm sure you would agree. You have people like AOC and Bernie, which they're actually diverting energy away from pushing Joe Biden left. That's what's actually happening. So the energy that could be aimed at Joe Biden and pushing him left, AOC and Bernie are deflecting it, and they're diverting that energy. And do you think that people on the left, Ryan, will eventually figure out that they need to stop protecting the celebrity of AOC and the squad and demand that they start fighting?
Yeah, I mean, I, at this point, am totally divested from electoral politics. I don't think that any of these politicians in Congress are truly on the left. They say that they are, and then they cozy up to Pelosi. They, put out really, really pathetic statements about foreign policy issues, whether it's the coup in Venezuela or the Israeli occupation of Palestine or Syria, Russia, China, you name it, all of these issues, they're essentially falling in line with the State Department, or at least just representing the left of that Overton window. And meanwhile, people who are actually critical of U.S. imperialism are beyond that. So I really don't have much faith in these people who pretend to be adversarial to the establishment when it's really clear from their actions and their words that they're not.
It was a heartbreaker for us at this show, but we've at least we're facing it soberly. It seems like you are too. So good for you on that. Now, has any other major media outlets reached out to you besides the Gray Zone and us?
Yeah, so I've had Fox reach out. It's actually been a lot of the right-wing media that's reached out to me. OANN and the Daily Caller have reached out to me. And the New York Daily News, trying to think, but no establishment liberal media, of course, which is really alarming.
So you're telling me CNN, MSNBC, the Washington Post, the New York Times, they're not interested in the fact that cops are showing up to people's houses because of tweets at politicians. No one cares. Those news outlets don't want to cover it, or those news outlets are actually manufacturing consent, which means they're protecting the establishment and they're protecting the politicians who are the establishment.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's totally what happened. It's just disappointing that the only outlets that have really reached out to me have been right-wing outlets. And it just kind of paints the picture that I've known all along, that the liberal media is totally unwilling to cover a lot of these contentious issues, whether it's related to foreign policy or domestic policy.
And then if you do cover them, they'll call you a conspiracy theorist, like the CNN did to us when we debunked the gas attacks lie in Syria. So we got that story right. CNN got it 100% wrong, and then they smeared us, called us a conspiracy theorist, and that sticks in our Wikipedia page. Wikipedia also controlled by the intelligence community. If you become popular enough, you'll find that out, Ryan. You'll find that out.
They're already calling me a Russian agent because I work for Soapbox, so anything goes, I guess.
So where did you get called? That's awesome. They're calling you a Russian agent. Did that happen on Twitter? Where'd that happen?
Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all of the above. So you get harassed by the fucking state. The cops come to your house because of a tweet, and somehow now they got to come at you. Again, it's the re-victimizing the victim because they're protecting the party and the establishment. That's exactly what's happening. Well, Ryan Wentz, everybody check out Left Bitches, right? That's your podcast, Left Bitches?
Yeah.
And the Soapbox.
And Soapbox as well.
The Soapbox and Left Bitches. Everybody check it out. Both those places are run by Russians. And... but, sometimes Russians make good podcasts sometimes, and then they shut off your power. So anyway, Ryan, thank you so much for making time for us. Ron, do you have any questions, anything you want to ask Ryan?
I was actually going to ask, you got into the mechanics of it some, but I was going to ask a little bit more, like how long did they spend with you? Like what was kind of the, just anatomy of that interaction?
Yeah, it was about 10 minutes, and they repeatedly insisted that I had threatened to kill AOC, and
were they trying to coerce something out of you?
I think so, yeah, and they even said, I did not do that. I tweeted a video of her at a live stream, and they actually said, well, you should look in to see if someone hacked into your account. You should change your password. And I was like, dude, I know my password. I know people, no one else was on my account. I think that you're just making this up. But I think that maybe it did get flagged when someone in the replies commented something, but that's just absurd that they would come after me.
10 minutes doesn't sound like long, but when you're being questioned in your front of your house by cops for a tweet, 10 minutes seems like an eternity, I'm sure. For a tweet.
Totally.
For a tweet. This is the world we're living in now. So Ryan Grimm tweeted this out. So that tweet from our friend Ryan, he retweeted and said, a spokesperson for AOC says they did not report this post to police and have asked for answers from Capitol Police. No, not at all. But when we saw his tweets last night about being visited, we asked Capitol Police to look into what happened. So Ryan Grimm got access to the AOC spokesperson. And then he said the police did show up at that person's door over Ryan Grimm from The Intercept. He's the guy who kneecapped Forced to Vote and lied about this show, lied about Brianna Joy Gray, lied about Forced to Vote, lied about blah, blah, blah.
Acted like Pago was a big deal.
Acted like Pago was a big deal. He's just running interference for Democrats. That's what he's doing at The Intercept, Ryan Grimm.
Sad.
The police did show up at this person's door over a post about AOC is confirmed. The open question is who sent them and why. If AOC was actually responsible for it and denied it, Capitol Police would eagerly out her. So her denial has serious credibility. So that's Ryan Grimm taking the extra step to not just report the facts, but then kind of spin them in a way that's super pro AOC. So this last part, if AOC was actually responsible for it and denied it, Capitol Police would eagerly out her so that her denial has serious credit. That's what AOC's PR person is supposed to do. That's what AOC's chief of staff is supposed to do. That's not what a fucking journalist is supposed to do.
You know, the journalist, Jimmy, should actually be concerned that somebody went to somebody's house because something that was printed.
Yeah. So you know what Ryan Grimm didn't do? He didn't reach out to Ryan Wentz.
No shit!
The guy who was the victim. Who did he reach out to? AOC. Why? Because he wanted to make sure he could defend her. How do I defend? How do I use the imprimatur of the Intercept to defend a powerful person? He figured it out. That's how he did it. He didn't have on Ryan Wentz. He reached out to AOC first. I said, good to see AOC's PR person at the Intercept is already doing damage control. Well done. Access granted. And, of course, Ryan Knight, y'all owe Jimmy Dore an apology. Is 1,000% right about AOC. So there's Ryan Grimm doing access journalism again, sticking up and defending the reputation of a politician instead of being critical and skeptical. And, again, should have reached out to the victim here. But he didn't. He reached out to the powerful because that's what Ryan Grimm does. They curry favor with the powerful. And you watch it, Ryan Grimm's going to end up at the goddamn New York Times pretty soon. I bet you any fucking money, because that's the kind of writing he's doing now, so he gets hired by a pro-democratic rag like the New York Times. Ron, any comment on the Ryan Grimm?
Well, I actually just wanted to add to the entire thing that I thought it would have been really funny if when the highway patrol people were at Ryan Wentz's house, if he confronted them about the tweet itself, and they had to kind of deflect away from the fact that they can't read. Like if he would have been he would be like, sir, what is objectionable about this tweet? Tell me. Here's what is objectionable about this tweet. I think the threatening part. Where's the threatening part? Point out the threatening part. Point it out. What's the threatening part? I'm getting a text. Excuse me. What's your text say? It says that a car is speeding. A car. Oh yeah. What kind of a car? A Hyundai. A Hyundai. Why are you picking on me? I'm just trying to make the world a better place, one tweet at a time.
What kind of a car? It was an extremist, violent car. Welcome to Silicon Valley being in bed with the government. That's what this is. Silicon Valley being in bed with the government. And turns out the Biden administration way worse for censorship and shit like this than the Trump administration was. At least Trump was at war with social media people. They're not in bed with them. People from Facebook and Twitter right inside Joe Biden's administration, sitting right inside the White House right now, dictating this kind of bullshit policy. Ryan Wentz, again, go check him out. The Soapbox and Left Bitches. Thanks for being our guest, pal.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Ron.
Okay, bye-bye. Hey, everybody, this is the part where I tell you where all our live shows are, but there aren't any. And then this is why I tell you to join our premium program and get extra content, but nobody's got a fucking job. So just enjoy the video.